have here is a very crowded work area. This is a freewheeling automatic hub that is non-serviceable, they say, from a 95 Geo Tracker 4-wheel drive 16 valve. But the hubs are pretty much all the same on the freewheeling hubs. There's an O-ring that goes in here. It's remaining on the steering knuckle over there, in front of the rotor or whatever, the hub, the actual hub bearing carrier. But that would ride in here. When I'm all done, it'll go back in there. To get this apart, there is a snap ring. Press this down a little bit. Let's see if I can feel around for it. There's a snap ring right there. You'll actually see it move inside there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work that little snap ring out. I did already service one of the hubs that are non-serviceable, so they say. What I use to pull a snap ring out are these tools here. These are like little picks. I forget where I got them. I got them from Harbor Freight. I think they're Harbor Freight picks. And you gotta take it kind of easy because the tips do break off, so you gotta really pry easily. And there's a little mini 1/8 Craftsman flathead, and of course the box cutter. So got two of these, the box cutter. There's a second step involved in taking it apart, and it involves pressing it in a vise, or you can use a press to compress the heavy spring. And I have one of these adapters from a Harbor Freight wheel bearing or a ball joint kit. So the ball joint kit's great for just various pressing of items. All kinds of adapters come with it. For the money, it's definitely worth it. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is try to get in there, and I push the inside of the circlip down. Then I get the box cutter kind of down the groove behind it, and now I kind of work it back up again using the pick, and hopefully, well, failed that time, but we'll try again here. You gotta be patient, it'll get there eventually. A couple minutes spent doing this is not a big deal. And then you just gotta pop it up, see? Like that. And it's right out. Then you kind of hook it. Once it's out, you don't want it to fly anywhere, so you kind of hook it and hold it with your fingertip and work it around. Kind of press down a little bit because there's a spring that's holding this locking mechanism in place. So this comes out first. Okay, that's your circlip that retains, or circlip snap ring internal that retains the locking mechanism, which is that, and then the spring that lays on top of that. Okay, all I'm going to do is grease these. I'm going to clean them really good and grease them. And what I use for grease is Valvoline Full Synpower grease. The good thing about this grease is it's approved for -40 to 400. -40 is good because it'll work in extremely cold climates, and we get down below zero here in Northeast PA, so we want that. So these come off. I'm going to set these on a piece of something or other. On my crappy workbench here that's full of junk, and it's a mess. Let me go grab a piece of cardboard, put them on. This is really bad. My workbench may be a mess, but at least I'm in the garage. It's like 20 degrees out right now. And at least I have tools. So, alright, now the circlip, the spring, and the actuator is just out of there. So, next I'm going to take a look-see here and see what else has to come out. There's a little spring inside here that's got to come out, and that's right here. It's a spring clip, and it's a little tougher to get out at first, but you use the right tool. Pop it with a screwdriver. You see see it pop a little bit. And once you get it pop with a screwdriver, you can kind of get underneath it and lift up. Let me tighten this up a little bit. The vise won't crush the hub. I mean, it's pretty heavy metal. It looks like plastic, but it's powder coated or something. It's pretty heavy metal. Alright, so let me pull that back, and then... So, it's starting to come out now, and once you get it started, just kind of work around it. Down here, pull this right out. Okay, now, as far as I know, there's not an upside down or a right side up on this. This looks pretty identical either way. It can go back either direction. It's important to put this stuff in order on your cardboard so you can put it back in the right order, because you don't want to take it apart again, because it can be difficult. Okay, now I've pulled out, this is the freewheeling hub section. Okay, it's got some gears on it. This has got a roller bearing, thrust washer type of thing that ride in the bottom of the inside of the hub. So it rides on the back of this little carrier here. So you have the carrier, you have a thrust washer, then you have this roller bearing type of thrust washer looking thing, and that rides down inside here. You can get in there, inside there, and it rides down inside here on top of this gear surface here. And I guess when the hub locks, it pushes these teeth that are right here. Pull back a little bit. It'll lock these teeth here into that piece there, making a continuous connection between the spline shaft of the axle and the rotor wheel bearing assembly. Alright, so I'm going to set these two pieces aside. These need to be cleaned. This old grease in here, it's almost like watery, so this definitely had to be done. Kind of concerned about the O-ring. It might be shot. I don't know what size I got to get. I'll have to measure it, and I'll put it in the comments section of the video when the video is done. So I'm going to put this over here now. And remember, when you assemble it, this goes in the bottom, then followed by the thrust washer, and then the carrier goes in. So now we got this beast. This has to come apart. The way this works, you got this big, there's a big heavy spring that clicks back and forth. This will push in, and inside here there is yet another circlip. So this is not very fun to take apart, this particular part. So what I do is I put this press adapter for a ball joint behind it. I unscrew my vise a little bit. And actually, I'm going to search for the circlip. So, I don't know exactly where the circlip is going to be. I'll find it when I press it. So, pull back. You don't want to press and deform anything. You want to be very gentle. If you have a hydraulic press, it might work better, but my lighting's not so good on my press, so I got to do it here. So you can see it squeeze in a little bit. That's all the travel you get. You don't get much. That's it. So there's not much area to work. Next, I take my shop light and I start looking for the edge of the circlip. And hopefully I find it in a convenient spot. I think I found it right there. There it is. You get a look at that right over there. So I rock it back and forth. You can kind of see it moving. Got lucky, it's right there on top. This one's a little tougher to get. This circlip's a lot tighter than the other one. Like I've said, I say this thing's not serviceable for a good reason, because it's a pain in the neck to get apart from here. Alright, so, but it goes back together much easier. Let's see how well I can do on this sucker. There it is. Wow, that came right apart. Your mileage may vary. So the one I did yesterday, it took me probably 20 minutes of fiddling around to get it apart. Alright, now this is out. I can work it around the edge of the vise a little bit. Kind of, there's just enough room to squeeze it around the edge of the vise. That's the circlip right there. It's just a spring steel. Rides inside a groove. When I go to release that beast, the spring's going to let loose, but it's not going to go flying because you can only undo the vise so fast. You're not going to just like unspring it and have it fly across the garage like a coil spring. So you just kind of go out like that, and the whole thing's apart. Now look how greasy and yucky this thing is. It's a very handy tool. This sucker's very handy. I recommend, whether you have a press set or not, go to Harbor Freight and pick up their ball joint master ball joint adapter set, and also pick up the bearing puller kit, because that has a lot of good adapters too, and they work great. Because if you use pipes or PVC, it just crushes. These things are awesome. They work as well as the OTC parts. So now we got it apart. Now this comes out. This rides inside here. This just gets a thin coat of grease on it once it's cleaned up. So I'm going to set this aside. Coil spring rides in there. It's got a wider end. The wider end goes in this side, like that. And the only thing I did is when I put it back together last time, I made sure that this tip was not lined up with this part. I don't know if it matters. It probably doesn't matter. But all I did was, let me put this down. This just kind of uncoils off of the hub assembly. Oh, it just popped apart. Look at that. We didn't lose it all.
Yeah. I don't think we lost it all.
Okay, well, this is part 2. The fun of recording with a phone is when somebody calls you, it kills your recording. So, these pieces here are keyed. Alright, this is keyed here, obviously. It locks into these. This pushes, when you engage the actuators, it rides these cams here and pushes this in. And it locks into the inside of the hub with this teeth here. This piece here is keyed to line up with this piece here. So you can see that's kind of got a detente or something. I'm going to call it that. And when you go to put it together again, it just rides in like that. It won't go any other way. It pushes out. See? Cool, huh? So, anyway, so that comes apart. This will have to get greased up, cleaned up, degreased, all the crud. This is really, really dirty. So it'll get cleaned up. And there's actually, I think, there's like a snap ring that holds this on. I didn't take that snap ring off. I just left it go because I could get it clean enough without taking it apart any further. You just want to get it degreased and re-greased. So you just want to clean it up, You're not going to be replacing parts. If the parts go bad, get yourself a good set of worn hubs or ASINs. Or you can buy new locking hubs, auto lockers on eBay fairly cheap because nobody wants them because they're not reliable enough. Although I've never really had a problem with properly maintained hubs. Only had a problem with hubs that weren't maintained properly. Okay, so slightly, I believe, slightly narrower on this end, kind of a closer gap here. This closer gap versus farther gap. The closer gap goes in and rides on top of the cams there. Kind of rides in and wraps in there. And 2 seconds. And once it's in there properly, it should work properly. So this here, all I ever do is just do the snap ring. You can take it apart further if you wish. I didn't. I just cleaned it off really good and proceeded from there and re-greased it. So that's how you take it apart. In the next video, we'll be putting it back together after I clean it and grease it. All right? Go ahead.